So I'm the Reverend Wing Commander Ian Brown. I'm the outgoing 83 EAG chaplain, which means I've been serving here in the Middle East for the last 4 months, travelling around the area of operations, but mainly based in Qatar. And I'm about to redeploy and go home to RAF Coningsby.
And I'm the Reverend Colin Weir, and I literally have just arrived in the theatre, and I'm taking over from Ian for the next 4 months. So I'm going to be here until February 23. I think covering Remembrance whilst deployed gives such a different perspective to things. And it's something I have been able to do before. And actually throughout my time as a Royal Air Force chaplain, I've had the privilege of leading Remembrance services in places such as Norway and Germany, as well as throughout the UK and in the Middle East. And I think whenever you do take such services in these surroundings, it very much brings home the sacrifice that people have given in the past.
Yeah, I find it the same in that there's often that misconception that people think that we're glorifying war as we go for our remembrance services, but it's entirely the opposite. It's about remembering the sacrifice. It's about recalling the acts of bravery. It's about remembering those who made the ultimate sacrifice, but those also who experienced the scars of war for years to follow, and who still do so today. But also, I think remembrance is also a season of hope. And it's an opportunity for us to commit ourselves to strive, to pray for, to work towards peace.
And one particular week of Remembrance which will always stand in my memory, actually, and I guess it's particularly pertinent because of this year's 40th anniversary of the Falklands War. Is in 2007 I was actually posted to the Falkland Islands for a year, and that tied in with what was the 25th anniversary of the conflict. And during that week of Remembrance, a group of about 120 veterans were flown down to the Falkland Islands, and it was incredible to spend a week with them, going around the various battlefield sites, taking services and listening to their stories. But actually one of the things that stood out was not what they said, but actually it was the times of silence as you went around the battlefield sites with them, and you just saw them retracing their steps, reliving in their minds their experiences of 25 years ago. All of them, that had been their first time back to the Falkland Islands since the conflict of 82, and that always has stuck in my memory of what they went through, and of seeing them return to those places. And of course, so many conflicts today, we can't return to the places, the veterans who took part in those conflicts. But it actually brought a lot of healing, I think, and peace to them to come back to those places, and effectively to pay their respects to their colleagues who they had last seen on the battlefield site, in their case 25 years ago.
I can imagine that was a really powerful time for those individuals. And I guess in a similar way, I recall Remembrance on Operation Herrick at Kandahar in Afghanistan, and it really brought it home to all the troops there on the parade that we held, because it was a living experience for everybody there. That people were losing their lives, people were making decisions that were challenging. It was a time of conflict, and the readings, the poems, the reflections all came alive in a very different way during that period.
And it is important, I think, also, we talk about remembrance, and yes, we need to have a term to use, but certainly when around and taking services, I always like to think of, actually, it's not so much remembrance, but remembering. It's not looking backwards, but it's remembering, it's appreciating what has gone before, and the sacrifices of individuals, of families, and in remembering, we actually take it on as an action to move forward. And it's always important, I think, in those services to rededicate ourselves to try and improve the lot of everyone literally to bring justice and equality to people's lives, and to do our best going forward, even if it's just in little small ways, as well as the bigger ways.
Yeah. So I often ask people, what do you think about during the silence during a Remembrance parade? And I have some really interesting answers in return. Some people think about the news, current affairs. People think about stories, historical battles. Some people, are just thinking about, well, did I remember to lock the front door when I left home today? But others have a very personal connection because they've lost somebody close to them. I think giving people an opportunity to prepare for that 2-minute silence on Remembrance Sunday is an important role of the chaplain, so that when it comes, it's poignant and meaningful, and like you say, it's part of that remembering, not so that we can just look backwards, but as a forward element of looking forward to a future with hope. Yeah.
And I think it's important that we have actually seen, I've certainly seen over the last 10-15 years, the importance of the 11th of November and Remembrance Sunday. People are making more of an effort and maintaining that effort to take the opportunity, whether it be for 2 minutes of silence or to attend an act of remembrance or to come along to a service of remembrance. And another occasion that really struck me talking about that 2-minute silence was when I was really fortunate to take part in the service of remembrance in the Royal Albert Hall. And it's something I'd always thought would be a terrific thing to take part on, but I actually wasn't quite prepared myself for the emotion of it, because we had the service, the various parts of the evening, and then it came to that service of remembrance. And I remember we were stood up there in the stage. Actually, I was incredibly nervous because we had to walk down the steps and walk across, and I was in full clerical robe, so I wanted to make sure I didn't fall over a trip. But once I got to the stage, we had the service, and it was during those 2 minutes of silence. I'm sure you've seen it on television before, with the poppies falling down, and it was just incredible to be in that fantastic construction, that amphitheatre that the Royal Albert Hall is. And just the silence was deafening. It was one of those cases. And the poppies falling down. The emotion really was quite overcoming, actually.
Yeah. So I guess you out here now, I mean, you know how hard our people are working out here in the Middle East, and some of the challenges they're facing. What are you doing for remembrance out here?
Yeah, so actually literally now that I've arrived, trying to work out, because we have several locations, of course, around the broader Middle East. So literally what I'm going to be doing on the Friday, the 11th, at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a service for the personnel here at the 83 Expeditionary Air Group headquarters. We'll have that service at 11, and probably some of our coalition allies will join us for that service. It'll be held outdoors at the compound. And then I'm going to jump on a flight that evening and fly across to 906 Expeditionary Air Wing, and we will have a Remembrance Sunday service there on that Sunday, so that way try and encompass being as many places as it can be, as it's possible to be, for one person, and cover off those couple of locations.
That's great. So for me, I'll be back home by then, and I'm praying for a cold, crisp Remembrance Sunday, and I'll be looking forward to remembering alongside the people at RF Coningsby in their various events. And as ever, it's a privilege to lead those services and to take part with those who remember from the station, but also locally, and with the Royal British Legion and the Royal Air Force Association, who are normally around, and it's a special time for the local communities, and I'll be looking forward to playing a full and active part there.
Yeah, but certainly, as we mentioned before, being in operations does give a much different perspective to it, because people are away from family, from friends, from loved ones, from significant others, but yet they know that at that time, back home, that those significant others, those families, those friends, will be standing there in the silence as well, and actually remembering them who are deployed here in operations, as we continue to do our job, which those generations that have gone before us. And I suppose in some ways too, actually, being out here in these desert conditions brings back memories of my grandfather fought during the Second World War, and he has now passed many years ago now, but his medals were passed on to me by my grandmother, and his Italian but also his African star. So that's something I always remember on Remembers, his medals.
That's great.
And his 4 years of wartime service. So I have that very personal link myself with those generations who have helped to secure our freedom. It's something that we continue to do, and as chaplains we continue to support those who literally are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, around the globe, to continue to do so.